Hi, I'm Ruben Saltzman with Structure Tech Home Inspections, and today I'm going to talk to you about beam fill, why you shouldn't insulate rim joists with fiberglass insulation, and the case of the missing rim joists. So way back in the day, it used to be common practice on older homes to take a concrete mix. I don't know what it was made out of. It looked like concrete. Maybe it was mortar mix, something like that. And they'd trowel this in between each floor joist at the rim joist area. They would put this stuff right up against the rim joist. And sometimes they'd pack this stuff all the way in there and it'd be a flat wall. But more frequently, it would be tapered down at like a 45-degree angle. And it would fill in the space all along the rim joist, and it would completely cover the rim joist. And it's called beam fill. At least that's what a couple of old school home inspectors here at Structure Tech, who are now retired, told me back when we used to work together. They said that stuff's called beam fill. And apparently the reason this stuff was used was to help secure the floor joist, to help prevent them from turning one way or the other, and it would also help to anchor the entire structure to the top of the foundation. So it would be common practice to fill this stuff in with beam fill. Now, the problem with that is that you can't see any of the outside rim joist. The rim joist is the joist that goes along the ends of all the regular joists. If you can't see it, you can't inspect it. That's one of the problems I have as a home inspector. Now, that alone isn't a problem, but I've seen a lot of homes where the rim joist badly deteriorates because this beam fill kind of acts like insulation a little bit. It makes that outside rim joist a lot colder. And when you have moisture in the foundation walls seeping up and basically wicking into that top rim joist, it prevents that rim joist from drying out. And concrete acts like a sponge. Concrete will soak up a lot of moisture, and that moisture wants to go somewhere, and eventually it's going to wick up into that wood at the top, and that wood can stay wet for a really long time. Now, to make this even worse, what exacerbates this is when the rim area is insulated with fiberglass insulation. That practice basically disappeared in Minnesota, I'd say mid-2000s or so. We stopped doing it. And the only way that rim joists are insulated now is with closed cell foam insulation. And the reason for that is that you don't end up with condensation at the rim joist. It doesn't allow moisture to pass through the insulation. But when fiberglass insulation is used there, it will allow moisture to pass right through it. And when it hits that relatively cold rim joist, you end up with condensation. When you have beam fill and fiberglass insulation, you increase the potential for condensation at the rim joist. So it's not a good situation. Now, the case of the missing rim joist was, this came from a home inspection that I did back in 2014. I still remember this one. I blogged about this back when it happened, but I never published my blog post because I never exactly got to the bottom of it. But I've given up on trying to figure out exactly what went wrong in this case, and I'm just going to share the story. A homeowner contacted me to do a home maintenance inspection for her. It's basically the same thing as a home inspection, but it's an inspection done on a home that somebody already owns, and they want to know what they need to do to be a diligent homeowner. And we do a ton of those. So I did this inspection, we'll call her Sarah. I did the inspection for Sarah, and she said, I don't have any huge concerns. The one area I did have a question about was when my contractor installed a combustion air intake on the outside of my house, he had to drill a hole through the rim joist, and he said my rim joist was kind of rotted, like there's some problems there. So maybe you could dig into that. So she had fiberglass insulation all along the rim joist area, as well as beam fill, so you know where this is going. And I ended up pulling back that fiberglass insulation in a bunch of different areas to try to get a look at a rim joist, but I couldn't see squat. It's all totally covered with that beam fill. But eventually I got my all out and I got permission from the homeowner. Now, normally, if it's a traditional home inspection where it's a real estate transaction, I wouldn't do something like this. But because I had the homeowner's permission, she said, you can poke, prod, get a hammer, do whatever you need to, because I want to know what's going on there. So I took my awl and I was able to pry away some of that beam fill. There was one joist section where I was able to pry it loose, and I was able to lift the whole section of concrete up to take a look behind it. And you know where I'm going with this, right? There was no rim joist left. It was gone. I mean, completely gone. I could see the stucco right on the other side. And it was like that in this one area. I'm assuming it was like that in a bunch of areas. There were carpenter ants all over her basement. Now, my conclusion here was that this was a condensation issue, as well as moisture wicking up that wall and then rotting it out. So, you know, basically what I'm getting at here is if you are buying a home and you have this concrete fill all along your rim area, look out for it. Notify your home inspector. Tell your home inspector that this is an area you would like them to pay special attention to. And if you're a home inspector, do whatever you can to probe and prod and try to determine if there's rot behind that beam fill if you're inspecting a house that has this. Take extra time out of your home inspection to walk around the entire perimeter of that basement. Get your awl and poke at the ends of all the floor joists that you possibly can. Try to get in there behind it. And a lot of the time you're gonna find that the wood that's exposed is just fine. I mean, it'll be like petrified wood, solid as a rock. But if you kind of get in there at an angle, you can find that once that wood disappears behind that beam fill, it's gone. I mean, it is a rotted mess behind there, frequently. Not always, but it happens a lot. So this is something to look out for. And what else could have caused that problem besides condensation and moisture wicking up? A couple of theories that I heard from some really smart home inspectors that I've known for a long time and I respect. One theory is that the stucco wasn't done right on the outside and it was just allowing water to leak in. I guess that's possible. Another theory is that the stucco was brought all the way down below grade and water was wicking up the stucco. I guess that's possible too, but in my mind, there's a much greater likelihood of water just wicking right up the foundation wall. I think that would be more likely. And then a final possibility that somebody floated to me was that maybe this house had chronic ice dam issues and that you had leaking at the roof line, water went right down inside the wall, and then it ended up hitting that rim joist and it just kind of pooled there and it couldn't get out. And that's what rotted away the rim joist. Maybe. I guess that's a possibility, but I don't think it's very likely because I've found this same condition on homes with gable end walls, and there's major rotting where you wouldn't even have ice dams on a roof. So I don't think that was the case, but it's another possibility that somebody threw out there. So bottom line, when you see this concrete at the rim joist, it's called beam fill, and look out for rot behind it however you possibly can. That's it. That's all I know about beam fill. If you know more about this, feel free to leave a comment. Thank you for watching.